Good evening. My name is Phyllis Story, and I'm one of the vice chairs of the World Union for Progressive Judaism.
Ooh, bravo.
That's one. On behalf of the Union for Progressive Judaism and the UIA Progressive Appeal, I have much pleasure in welcoming you this evening in person. It's lovely to see you all at the King David School and the many people we have joining us on Zoom from around the world. I'd like to introduce our two speakers, Rabbi Sergio Bergman and Joel Lazar. Rabbi Bergman has been president of the World Union for Progressive Judaism for the past nearly 2 years. Born in Buenos Aires, Rabbi Bergman trained as a biochemist before a career change saw him ordained as both a conservative and a reform rabbi. His CV is really too long to mention here tonight, but of most importance in this context is that he served as the Minister for the Environment and Sustainable Development in Argentina, 2015 until the end of President Macri's term in 2019. Rabbi Bergman has been named as one of the world's 100 most influential leaders in the fight against climate change and is a distinguished speaker on issues of social justice, human rights, and a strong exponent of the civil discourse. He's fluent in many languages, and his words and his message need to be heard by everyone around the world in all languages. We're thrilled he's been able to visit Australia to survive the weather in Sydney and so that he and I can finally talk in person after nearly 2 years of Zoom meetings. Joel Lazar has been the Jewish Climate Change Network's first CEO since 2020. After a stint as a Collins Street litigator, Joel was head of operations at the Man Cave, a wonderful organisation that works with boys to develop their emotional intelligence and mental health and to enable them to become healthy and respectful young men. Joel's commitment to addressing the impacts of our rapidly changing climate intensified and led him to join the Jewish Climate Network, where his work to drive social change at the community level, especially now within the Jewish community, spans educational program design, youth leadership, and facilitation. He's driven to unlock the strengths, networks, and creativity of the Jewish community, and he has clearly become a leader in the climate solutions and advocacy. His passion for social justice in this context, asthma, was recognised in 2019 when he received the Ron Caston Young Humanitarian Award. Joel and Sergio will have a conversation, and then I'll open it up for questions from the floor. Rabbi and Joel, over to you.
Hello to everyone who's joining us from Zoom tonight, and we also have a wonderful audience here in person, which is wonderful. Good to be with you, Rabbi. You've been here for a couple of weeks.
My pleasure to meet you and to realize that you are a real person.
Yeah, we also have just been on Zoom and emails, and I sort of had to touch the rabbi to make sure that he was indeed real. So it's nice to be here in person.
My pleasure.
I wanted to kick off with something very relevant. It's been happening in the last couple of weeks, actually. You've arrived in Australia at a time where Australia is now seeing some of the worst floods that we may ever see, or might even get worse in the future. And I'm wondering how you're just responding, seeing the news. You were up in Sydney last week. How do you feel seeing the events of the floods unfolding in New South Wales and Queensland?
Yeah, good evening. Really, for me, it's a privilege to be with all of you. I really feel that I am my home. That is one of the strength feelings of Jewish people around the world. No, we came from different countries, and we speak different languages, eat different food, different times. I can't really understand how you can have dinner at the tea time, 5 o'clock. What I know is normal people 10, 9 p.m. But you know, all this difference, that is the richness of humankind, have the expression in the Jewish people when really we feel that we are part of an extended family. This is so powerful. And then I came, this is the first trip, that Philip said, my first trip to visit a region. The World Union is the global organization of the progressive movement, and our stakeholders are the different regions. And through the regions, we really work with the communities. And then for me, it was so important to start really to move on after 1.5 years of COVID crisis. And I really so excited to be here. Of course, I arrived to Sydney, maybe was a mistake. I need to start in Melbourne, not in Sydney. But I arrived to Sydney and then say, this is your fault. You bring here the flu, you bring here this climate expression. I realize now that I'm in Melbourne that this beautiful weather is not my fault.
It's not your fault.
That is really part of one of the expression of the global warming. That nothing is the same that we know before. And there are clear evidence that in this way that we are moving on, we have a risky future. We need to change in some direction. For me, it's clear that the change is to stop to go forward in the linear direction. We need really to start to think in the circular direction. How really we can, and this is very Jewish, you know, our Jewish tradition teaches us that everything is circular. And this is part of our knowledge. The night, the day, the week, the moon and the month, the season, and the festivals, the year. It's clear that everything is circular for us. And nature is circular. Now also we learn that the history is circular, that we don't learn. Now we are living in a very tough time. I can't really speak and address about climate change if we don't remember today that we are in a war with our brother and sister in Ukraine. And we never mind that our young people here really are witness online of something that we really believe that we need to show to them in a documentary, like part of the history that really will improve. And this is an evidence that we can be more sophisticated, but not we ensure that we have an evolution like humankind. That we need really to teach from the past how we can repeat the same mistakes. For me, the climate change issue is a very Jewish one, and we relate to that. And I want only to say that, first of all, the Reshuta Rabbanim Bamorim, with the permission of our teacher and rabbi here, Gary and Jonathan, I want to say that climate change is not the problem. Climate change is the alarm. Climate change is something that calls us to reflect how we are doing what we are doing. It's the same when we have fever. If you have fever, you don't take your time and your energy to discuss about how much fever you have. If you have fever, the discussion is not more the fever. It's you go to the doctor and say, I have fever. It's an evidence that I am sick. I need to know exactly why. And the doctor is not talking more about the fever. He's talking about the reasons that you are sick. This discussion, this conversation is from climate change to rethink the reasons why we are doing the wrong thing. Profanating the nature that is sacred. And I really realize when you acknowledge the land and the people, that is something sacred in this Mother Earth. That we need really to come back to Mother Earth and to be grateful about the gifts and the blessings of the nature. And we need to take responsibility about how we profanate something that is sacred. This is not a green agenda. This is an ethical agenda and a very Jewish one.
So when you were using that analogy of being sick in a body, having a temperature, and every illness has a cause. So when we talk about the causes of human-induced climate change, obviously, as many of us know, that's fossil fuels, CO2, methane, endlessly coming into the atmosphere since the Industrial Revolution. And so when we think about rising emissions, and we think back to your time, let's say as an Argentinian Minister for the Environment for 4 years, I wonder if you could share a little bit about how did you succeed in getting bipartisan support in a government where I think at the time your party was described as maybe a centre-right sort of disposed party. Well, that's what the internet told me.
I don't want to discuss with you. I will want to discuss with the internet. Because,
discuss that with the internet. But it was a Republican party of sorts, which is really interesting.
Republic is the center. It's not right. But here, if you are in the center, you fall in the right.
Yeah.
But in any case...
But the interesting thing was, it was around the center where it wasn't typically a, let's say, a left government, and you were successful in bringing about some really great reforms in Argentina. And I'm curious if you could share, how did you go about bringing all sides of the political spectrum to push the conversation forward in Argentina on climate?
Okay.
If you wouldn't mind sharing.
Yes, I want. But first of all, about political denominations, I only want to say something. Left and right means nothing. There are very old categories to try to put something in some place that don't fit. You need to realize politics, checking what you are doing, not what you are saying. And for me, it's clear that this agenda is an agenda not from the left, not from the right, it's from the goodwill of the human being. And then there's the common ground that we need to invite from the left, from the right, from the center, from the top, from the bottom, no matter for me. Because we are talking, first of all, about not ideology. First of all, common sense. That is something that we lose when we drop in ideology. We take ideologies and we lose the common sense. Because we want really to argue in the ideology and the category and not to really realize that we need to do practical things. I will try, because like every rabbi, I talk a lot, but I use every question to say what I want, not to answer the question. Now I'm coming back to your question. Your question is very important because I realized two things. My job, like Minister of Environment, first of all, was very important for me because I closed my internal, Tikkun Atzmi, my internal challenge. I dedicate my first part of my life to science. Chemistry, biochemistry, pharmacy. Sometime, and this is not the day to explain that, why I moved from pharmacy to become a rabbi. That is very interesting.
That's for a different conversation.
And another night if you want, but no, I coming back in October. Maybe we can, yeah.
Tune in.
Yes, but we can talk about that. I moved from science to conscience. To something that is not to lose the knowledge of science. For me, it's like an upgrade. It's to say, okay, I have the practicalities of the science, but what is the meaning of that? And then I moved from this to became a rabbi. But the peak of my rabbinical career was the honor to become Minister of Environment in Argentina. First of all, because it's the most Jewish thing that I take on myself. You can say, no, but you was the rabbi in Libertad Temple, the bigger synagogue in Argentina. Yes, this is my vocation, and I really love to take care about my community. But you know, my community, when I came into politics, my community split into half. Half say, oh, great, you come into politics. And the other half say, oh, wait, what you are doing? This is risky for the community. That you take a party, that you expose the community in politics, in the media, talking about something that is not Jewish. You lost your root. That is really a very good signal. When you have half of the community that are with you and another half against you, you are in the right position. Your problem
is you stand for something. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, because the problem is when everyone is with you, you have a problem. When everyone is against you, you have a problem. But half and a half is the right position to yes, it's perfect. They say, no, what you are doing in politics? For me, politics is to serve my community. In the general agenda of the Argentinian society, I realized that was a contribution for my community. Because I don't take in politics the community Jewish agenda. I take an Argentinian agenda, a universal agenda. But everyone knows that I am Jewish, that I am a rabbi, and I can add value from my Jewish identity to the global conversation, and we really make a contribution. For me, climate change, environment, and you ask me what I achieve. I achieved a very, very long of project and ideas that I really 100% I fail. I don't succeed. There are a few things that are really for me important that I succeed, but most of them don't work. And this is not a problem, because if we follow in Pirkei Avot, we don't need to finish all the work, but we need to start it. And when you are aligned with values, you don't are looking for success. If you are aligned with values, you are really aligned to translate these values in actions, because you teach values only like a role model. Not because you have success. No, because you have coherence and consistent behavior. But you are doing exactly what you said. Maybe you can succeed, maybe no. But you are really aligned with yourself, and you are really coherent and consistent with that. In Argentina, few things are very important for us. As answering your question was, first of all, we create 6 national parks in Argentina and 2 marine areas that became the first 2 national parks in the ocean. That is something very important that I need to explain to Australians how important the ocean is. But ocean is one of the more important resources to mitigate the climate change. We all the time are thinking about the earth and forestry, that is important, but the ocean is something relevant and really important. Is the buffering, the warming in the earth. And for example, when we are talking about recycling plastic, plastic is one of the major sources of contamination of the ocean, not only the earth, and this is really, really risky. The other thing was to create the National Cabinet of Climate Change in Argentina. And this is also very relevant to explain about climate change, because you can't fix the environment with a Minister of Environment. If you don't build an interdisciplinary conversation, if you don't have a place to convince the Minister of Economy, Transportation, Agriculture, Production, that we need to be aligned, you lose. The National Cabinet of Climate Change for me was like revival of my commitment to be all my life a madrich. Was like a peula, an activity.
Each minister is a different chanich.
Yes, yes. I tried to be the madrich, and the minister was the chanichim.
Yeah.
And I say, you know, we need to work all together, like a group, like a family, because we are together. We need to keep the earth, we need to keep the planet. No, I want to buy more fossil oil because Argentina, we have a lot, and we make from this a lot of money with the taxes, and the government need the taxes. No matter if you have a contamination, pollution, no, we need the money. The other one says, I want to really improve the transportation. Okay, what do you think about electric mobility? No, electric mobility, no. I want to use gasoil, because this is the fuel that we have here in Argentina. You understood, this is all agriculture. Agriculture with all the glyphosate and the soya and the contamination and all these things. You know, but this is Argentina lives from to export the grain, and we need that. Yes.
How did you corral them? How did you bring them to the table?
This is one of the things that I failed.
Ah, okay. That's the task.
That means this is one of the things that I failed. Why? Because now maybe we're talking another question, because the problem is not how you stop the global warming and what is the solution to stop that. The key issue is how we redesign economy and politics. It's another conversation. When I am saying how you redesign economy, I refer to the idea that the implications of the global warming, when we try to ask why, the reasons is because we believe in the old paradigm of the Industrial Revolution, that is the linear economy. The linear economy means that you can take from the nature everything that you want without limit, all the raw materials. You need wood, take all the trees. You really want minery, take all the earth, and so on. This is leading us to a collapse. Behind the limits, it's impossible. And this is exactly what happens with our body when we are we lose our health and we are sick. Only in the limit, when we lose it, we recognize how important it is to keep our health. No? What we eat, our weight, how much exercise we are doing. That is common sense. But until we don't arrive to the limit, we don't recognize that we need to change. Now the planet is on the limit because we believe in the linear economy. Yeah. The problem with all this conversation, and this is another thing to answer the question, I am proud to be the representative of Argentinian country when we signed the Paris Agreement in 2015. Why? Because the UN, I talked with the young people this afternoon. I really like to be, congratulations for the work in this school. Really, I'm so surprised about, first of all, it don't seem to be Jewish. They was really quiet. A little boring, but quiet, respectful, interesting, but very, very sharp and accurate questions in the interaction with them. But this is exactly what really we are trying to answer. How we can make a contribution to this new generation that they have the right to receive a earth and a nature with the same possibilities that we have. This is our commitment, not to explode the nature, is to take from the nature with respect and be grateful from the nature, but to ensure to the next generation that they have this right. That means that we are not talking about a green agenda. For me, we are talking about the human rights agenda. We are talking about human rights. And you know why? Because we are the middle class. We have options. We can choose organic, not organic, vegan, not vegan, recycling, not recycling, electric, not electric. But the poor people, in the impact of the climate change, they lose everything. Everything. They have little things, they lose everything. You know, if you can talk with the people the last week in Sydney, that they are living not in the right place. They are living in the place that they can. And the water takes everything from them. They need to evacuate. They need to go to another place. You can imagine what's happened today with people and population that are living in the forest. When you destroy the forest, they lose everything. Again, the United Nations is the place that we have all the discussion, because the COP, the Conference of the Parties of Climate Change, is part of the United Nations. I told to the young people this afternoon, for me, it's United Nothing, not United Nations. And the world is showing us that we are United Nothing. Also, we are uniting nothing about the climate change, because what we signed in Paris, I'm proud about that, but I am explaining why we failed. We signed in Paris 2015, a commitment. It's the first time that we have an agreement, global agreement, with some concrete parameters that you need to fulfill. It's not what, I don't know if you remember, in 2000, we have the agreement in Rio. In Rio 2000 was a declaration. We need to keep the hair, we need to, okay, declaration is easy, no problem. But 2015, every country that signed the agreement of Paris need to show up two things. concrete policies of mitigation and concrete policies of adaptation. Mitigation is clear. What you are ready to change to reduce the emissions. This is mitigation. And it's not philosophical conversations. It's very practical thing. The other one is adaptation. It's until we reduce the emission, we need to change things here. We need to create protection to the poor people. We need to change the way that we are doing what we are doing. We need to keep that. And we need to think about the new jobs in the future. Because also climate change is changing the economy and the jobs and the inclusion of the people. The solution is the circular economy and the economy of triple impact. That means if we need to redesign the economics and the politics is easy. It's not to say, it's to do. And when you need to deal with conflict of interest, fossil oil, or to do the right thing, the politics are aligned with the interest, not with the goodwill. And we need to change the policies. Economy, we need to change the rules of the market. I am not having the discussion of the beginning, left or right, capitalism or communism. No, common sense. The economy, if we redesign the economy, is that nothing can be profit if it's not sustainable. Can be profit is if it's not sustainable. That means if you have a profit at the impact that you have in the environment, or the impact that you have in the people, in the quality of life of the people, you need to lose money. You need to lose money. Because if you don't have an economical incentive, nobody will change. We will give testimony. I recycle my garbage. I don't use this plastic. This is nothing. This is important to really teach ourselves, and here is the opposite. Our kids are teaching us that we need to change. There are our green policies saying, stop, it's not the way. We don't need to teach them. They are teaching us about what we need to do. But it's not enough. We know that it's not enough. We need to redesign the economy. You have a good example in Germany. Germany is working in this direction to change the paradigm of the economy. If you want really to build a new house, one of the standards of the building is that you need to reuse materials that you recycle in any component of the house, not the garbage, the components, the glass, the walls, the roof, and also that you are not only a consumer, you are a producer. The term in sustainability and profit is that we are prosumers.
Prosumer.
Prosumer, yeah.
Instead of consumer.
Yeah, the combination that you can only be a consumer, you need to produce. For example, if you use energy, you have a solar panel. You use the energy of the sun, you produce energy, and you consume this energy. But in the meantime, if you add more panels that you need, you produce energy. And then you have the bidirectional balance. You are consuming and producing.
So if we talk about the idea that you just presented, that we need to shift political systems, we need to shift economic systems, these are huge ideas. They're up here. They're sort of like,
yeah. So I like.
And here we are. We've got
it's very Jewish.
Individual Yidden who are sort of sitting here on the Zoom tonight and thinking, well, what is the relationship between me as an individual and shifting a political system or shifting an economic system? So you've been in politics for a long time, right? A lot of people are disillusioned.
I am in politics.
And you still are in politics.
Yeah, sure. I am working with the Jewish people.
Yeah, exactly. That's a certain type of politics. I think we can all agree with that.
I am a rabbi.
A lot of people feel that a politician won't necessarily listen, because you said there are different interests. So what do you say to folks who want to re-engage with politicians, ministers, candidates, members of parliament? Is there a role? Should they communicate with them, or will it all just fall on deaf ears to tell them we need a change in politics, we need a change in the economical system?
The only way that we can change politics is to realize that the politics and the politicians are an expression of the society.
I.e. us.
All of us. It's so easy. For me, politics and politicians is exactly what we done in the past in Yom Kippur. We are looking to something to put our hands and to say, I transfer to this all my sins. And we want to make expiation, kapara, in the politics and the politician. I am not guilty. I have nothing to do with that. But you vote.
As in, that's somebody else's problem. That's their problem.
This is the problem. We need good people to take the risk to come into politics, not to change the policy, to try to move on in the right direction. But in the first minute that some of us cross the line to the politics, everyone say, oh, he's now in the bad side. He's part of the bad guys. We don't support them. We left them. The same when you vote. You vote. You know what is your representative in this city. If you know that, this is an agenda, and you know that you are working on that, this is an agenda that you need to follow up with your representative. You need to send them mails, ask from an interview, and say, you know, before 2 years or 3 years, I don't know how often it is, I vote you. Now I need to know what you are doing with my vote about this agenda, to follow up your commitment like a citizen, because you are not a consumer of the country. You are a builder of the country in any proportion, in the city, in the state, I don't know. And I also believe that we need to change the approach to add value to the society in any proportion. And this is the difference to be a hero, to be a citizen. A citizen is a small hero in some proportion. An habitant is someone that does not take any risk. I am an habitant of the land, of the city, of the country. A citizen is not an habitant. It's someone that takes something positive, proactive to change. And I think that we can change. Also, you need to ask to your people, to your candidates, what is your agenda about climate change? And say, no, it's not my point. No, it must be a point. I really ask you, give me an answer. Don't say me what you want to do in economics if you can explain me the impact of this economy in the quality of my life. Or you can have a long list. Everyone can take to track record something about the agenda. Here we are talking about climate change, but we have a lot of things. But it's important to divide ourselves in the area of interest. If we are interested in this point, climate change, we need to check all the candidates and to ask them about this, what you are doing. But you need to know that I will follow you in a very...
I'll follow up, not I'll follow you. I'll follow up with you.
The two things.
Yeah.
In politics, you need to do the two things. Also to have a personal commitment and conversation. To support them when they are doing the right thing, and to criticize and say, you know what, you owe me. You owe me something, you need to do it. You promised me.
They're human after all.
Everyone is human, and I think that we can improve it, and we need to ask, especially to the young people, be involved and participate. Don't make the confusion between politician and politics. Politics are a good thing. The politics, good thing. Because the politics is the only way that we have to change reality, you know? It's the only way, the good one. If we had the bad one, we need to improve it. And the only thing that we have, the only results that we have to change are human resources, people. And this is the system of democracy. If you want to keep going with your own business, you need to choose something good to run our business. Because public affairs are not an issue of government. Public affairs are an issue of the common goodwill of the society.
I want to take up a question that I hear a bit doing this work around, let's say people do take on personal responsibility here in Australia to engage with politicians or whatever it is. I often hear a question around, well, a country like China or India or the US, they're the largest emitters by far out of any country, and Australia is a minnow compared to them. So all this effort and energy of me investing in this will come to nothing.
I like your argument.
Thank you.
Yes, I take it.
I'm passing it on from
No, really.
nondescript people.
It's a very fair argument. I take it and I fail. in the COP, in the Conference of Parties, I raised my hand from Argentina and say, hey, can be now in 2015, we can make now the bill of all the industrial revolution that starts in 1880, and to ask from us that in 1880 we have nothing in Argentina. Nothing. Why? We need to pay the bill of all the revolution that the China, the US, UK produced in the last 100 years. If it's fair, you need really to the rich countries to ask to them to pay in the proportion that you make the emissions from the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, not from the beginning of the Paris Agreement. Makes sense, no? Don't work. The Paris Agreement starts with a conversation between the US in Obama's time with China. China is the more fake and risky country. We need to take care about that. If you are asking about Putin, you need to understand what China is doing. He's a crazy guy for sure, but it's backed 100% by China. 100% by China, and here in this war, China is the winner. Because if Putin wins, is the winner, and Putin lost, is the winner.
My question is more around the personal responsibility side. So, I mean, how does someone feel motivated to act in the long term in a country like Australia, which is a small emitter, versus a country like China, which is a bigger emitter? And
because you have the two directions, like the Kabbalah teaches. You have the global dimension, the personal dimension. You can address the problem in the global dimension, you can address the problem in the personal dimension. But we need to work in all the dimensions. In the global dimension, the only way that we have is politics, agreements, treaties. It's the only way to sit all the countries and to realize that the only one thing from climate change is that climate change, global warming, don't respect national borders. No matter if your country have more or less emission, the impact is for everyone. Why? Because we realize something that is written in the Torah. We are the humanity, the humankind, we are only one family, and we have only one house, the planet. All the division about nation is artificial. We create the borders. We create the nations. But we are in a house. That means, no, it's my problem. No, it's not more your problem. It's my emissions. It's our emissions. And this is something that we can realize that is interdependent relationship. It's not bilateral relation. No, it's not more multilateral, bilateral. No, it's interdependence. Each with other, we are one. Really, we are one. This is the global one, Paris Agreement, blah, blah, blah. The problem that we have with Paris Agreement is that the United States go out. I don't know if you remember some guy, Trump. Okay.
Yeah, I remember.
Okay. He came, Trump, and said, this is not true. I don't believe in climate change. I take off my money from here. Paris Agreement, done. China, that have all the time the double standard, say, okay, if you don't put your money, I take my money. And all the undeveloped countries that present all the programs, mitigation, adaptation, you can do nothing if you have the money, if you have not the money. And this is really important. Why? Because to close the gap between profit and sustainability, the only way that you have, and this is an answer to your question, if it's possible to fix it, yes, it's possible to fix it. The only way is innovation and technology. That means that we need to invest in education. A good example is Israel, like a startup nation. With innovation and technology, you can close the gap. You want to have an answer, very concrete answer about fossil oil. What is the answer? Solar panels or eolic energy. No, this is the solution. Before 20 years, it was so expensive that you can't do it. Now it's cheaper. Now it's cheaper. That means that technology and the investment of innovation years bring us the solution. And I believe the same in agriculture. You need the agriculture, but you need something that is reasonable. You can't make a contamination because you need to feed the world. And in another point, why this is human rights, because we are now talking about climate change. I have only one question. We are talking about climate change and we have some doubts if the world can align itself to fix this problem. But from the beginning of the time that we are humanity, we don't fix the problem of people that are hungry, food. Who can explain me this rich planet with all the food that the planet is producing, that we have people that don't have food? This is a problem of the nature. This is a problem of the resources, or it's a problem of the politics and the economy. This is something that we are doing, like humankind. That means I think that it's very interesting to use climate change like the symptom why we are really sick. We are really sick because we have not equity. Tzedakah. We are really sick because we profane the gifts and the blessing if we don't recognize that it's a gift and a blessing. We are sick because really we believe that they are owners of everything. We are sick because we believe that time and space is our place. And we are not time and not place. We have the gift of some time and some place. If we change the existential ontological approach, we can fix also climate change. The problem that we have is that we don't realize that we are part of the creation. And also that we are part of a circle. When we born, we know only one thing, that we will go. In the meantime, between the two eternities, the eternity that we came and the eternity that we are addressing our life, we have an opportunity. And now the planet is calling us, you are losing your opportunity. Change, do something, take responsibility. Not because you are guilty, because you take responsibility, it's not the same. And this is the meaning for us for Teshuvah. We have every year the opportunity, circular, to say, I can make Teshuvah. Why? Because I am human, I make mistakes. But I don't want another year like the same of the last one. I want to improve. This is the same that we need to do every Shabbat. The circle of the time, for me, is part of the circle of the planet. That's the circle of the days. And also about the, the reflection. The reflection or inflection is that we don't keep going all the time in a line. We stop, we think, we take responsibility.
It's interesting. So you've mentioned two ideas side by side. First, you were saying innovation was a key part of finding the solution to climate. So 20 years ago, it would cost $30,000 to put solar on your roof, let's say.
Sure.
And now it costs $5,000 and you'll get the money back in 3 years. And you also talk about taking responsibility. And so in the past, taking responsibility was maybe impossible because I want to take responsibility, but I don't have $50,000 lying around. But now we're at this really interesting juncture in history where innovation has advanced so much. It's now in alignment with taking responsibility. And it's actually a lot easier now to implement that responsibility.
And what you are saying, build some working plan.
A working plan.
Yeah, circles. The first one is Tikkun Atzmi, myself.
Personal improvement.
Personal improvement habits. What are the habits that I need to change to improve the sustainability, first of all, of my life and from the environment? Say, no, it's very silly. If you change, you have no impact. No, you have a huge impact. Because you change yourself. And you became a role model. Because we are talking here about values. I know that we need to be effective. But before we need to be effective, we need to be consistent and coherent. We can ask to others what we are not doing by ourselves. Tikkun Atzmi is not effective in the climate change dimension, but is effective about how I change myself. to pursue my life in a line with values. The second one is tikkunam. By myself alone, I can change nothing. I can repair myself in my conscience, in my spiritual life, but I need from others. Others, what is the dimension of others? Maybe my family. I need to make my home sustainable. And maybe we can sit at home and to decide how we can improve our home to be more sustainable at home. You say, how we can change the world? Yes, because my home is a portion of the world. If I can change all the world, I can change the world that I am, and also I can change our world, the home, the neighbor, the school, the synagogue, the church, the business, everything in any dimension that you can take is enough to be proactive, to make a contribution. And the global one, you talk about the money, solar panels, all these things, you need the policies. In the global, you need the policies. You alone, you can change. But if you are a citizen, you vote. If you are not really happy with the candidates that you have, come into politics, change the party. The left, if you want, no problem. But you need to change. You need to change the thing in some way. And this is something that the Jewish tradition teaches. When we are talking about that, I remember all the time that the story of Noah. And I really believe that this conversation is the same conversation that we have in the Torah about Noah. Because what you are saying and what you are doing, because you are doing, with your proposal to call the people to action, you are doing, you are not waiting. If you remember what's happening in the Torah with Noah, you need to pay attention about what the neighbors say to Noah, not what Noah said. First of all, we need to listen the voice. And we are right now in Shabbat Vayikra. Someone is calling us. We need to move, but we need to listen the voice. If you are not sensitive, if you are not really open to listen, Shema Israel, Shema, not what we saw, but we listen, Shema Israel, you really can be connected. I talked with the young people this afternoon about the Wi-Fi. You have Wi-Fi, yes, but if you don't have the password, you are loose. And then you need to have the password and say, okay, someone is calling me. No matter for me the representation about God. If you think that it's this and that, male, female, no matter for me. If it's a father, a mother, no problem. Everything. Noah, listen that, you know what? Something is coming. The flood is coming. You need to build the ark. This day, when he listened the voice, was like this beautiful day that we have today in Melbourne. Beautiful weather, sunny day, not like Sydney. Amazing day. Here, no? Okay. The neighbor said, Noah, what you are doing? I am building an ark. You are crazy. No, because it's coming the flood. Which flood? It's not coming. It's not true. Climate change don't exist. But it's coming. Only Noah, that was a believer and was consistent what he believed that is the voice, that built the ark, he saved something in the ark. He don't save all the planet, but he saved something that was the new beginning. And this is for me the key. With climate change, we need to think how we keep something that is the core of the new beginning. This is the challenge. How you want to build in your ark and to put inside the ark the more essential things that can give you meaning to your life. And the ark is small. And everything that you have, you need to thank everything that you have. The money, the house, the car, everything. But you can take it with you.
I'd love to spend a bit of time now.
To the next one. You can take it. You need to leave all the material stuff here. Your soul is really living this world light. In the time that you have it, say thank you. I am grateful. But in the meantime, you need to be really not smart, a sage. Smart, everyone wants to be smart and intelligent, but the challenge is to be sage. How is the proportion between what you have and what you are? The only thing that keep going when you left is what you build with love.
It's beautiful. I agree. A couple of the ideas you just shared now, you've referenced Jewish thought at a couple of points throughout.
Mm-hmm.
And we're in a school, we're at King David, which is one of the esteemed Jewish schools in Melbourne. We have a number of wonderful Jewish schools in Melbourne. And one of the main purposes of our Jewish educational structures is to inculcate a love of Judaism and a love of Israel in our young people, next generation. When we put that side by side with this great mission we now have to take action in response to climate change, sometimes I think to myself, there are only so many hours in the day to spend on the things that really matter. Judaism really matters. Israel really matters. Climate really matters. There's lots of other things that also really matter. How do you reconcile, how do you bring together the idea that young people, they've only got so much headspace, or even as a community, we've only got so much headspace to think about the things that matter to us as Jewish people? Is there a clash between how much time I can spend on climate and Judaism and Israel and other issues? Is there synergies? If so, what are they?
I really trust in young people not because they are young, because they are leaders from themselves. And you have two really groups in the young people. You have young people that is old because they don't have dreams, because they are only consumers, because they are alienated. And you have young people that are young. Also, people that we are large in years, like me, for example, that I define myself like a young one. Because we are ready to change things and to have this kind of conversation. You don't have time. If you want, you have time. If you want. But you need to make a decision. Priorities. Between the things that are useful and the things that they are meaningful. Not everything that is useful is meaningful, but there is a lot of things that are meaningful, but maybe you think that they are not useful. This decision, we can take the young people to the place that the adults we want. We need to respect, to support our young people in the place that they are. For example, my example is the same all the time. Our young people are living in a smartphone. They are not using a smartphone. If you want to push them to come to the building, to stay with you, to receive your activities, you will fail. Because they are digital beings.
Digital beings.
Yeah. That means that we need to connect this world of the new paradigm of the new generation with our values. My challenge is how we can make this connection. And to have this connection with them, we need to have a real dialogue, not to manipulate the young people. For example, for me, a manipulation in the Jewish community about young people is to have the youth department. The youth department is something that the adults create to conduct the young. I think no, if we have young people, we need to allow to them to be our leaders. Not to give them all the keys, but to say, you can be our leader. Now you have a challenge. Young people who have a challenge, climate change. What do you think that is possible to do? That is not the same to instruct them and to impose them what they need to do. I believe in the entrepreneurship of the young people, the creativity, the innovation of the young people, and I really need the young people leading us. But you need to take the risk. You need to take the risk, no? You say, okay, we need to make a commitment. We want your young mind and the new paradigm of the world that you are living, because this is the door by door, from generation to generation, is really to allow to them to take the role. And the opposite of a leader for me is a victim. If you are not a leader, you are a victim. victim of the circumstances. I'm not talking about victim of Putin, of the circumstances. I can do nothing. I can do nothing. I'm suffering. That is very huge. I can do nothing. Obey the problems that we have. No. You are a leader, and the more difficult task of a leader is to lead yourself. Leading yourself to some place different that you are, improving yourself, adding value to yourself, making the inner revolution to achieve an evolution. Not to say, I keep going. No, keep going, no. You need to do something, and I think that young people is an inspiration for us. Not because they are right, because they have the energy and the goodwill to change. But we need to build with them a partnership. The same that we have with Noah. The more important thing with Noah is the end of the story, that we have a new beginning. The flood came, but we have a new beginning. And we have all the colors in the sky, and we learn that we need to bless. Baruch atah Adonai koreh tabrit. We give thanks to God that allowed to us after the blood that we can have a commitment, a covenant, a brit for a new stage. And the climate change is for me the end of something that have no future. The problem is we are ready to build a future and not to collapse. But this is not only with the earth and the planet, it's with everything. New life, new generations, new year, new week, new month. Everything that is new is because come after something that concludes. Now we are concluding a stage of humanity. And then we need to build something new. I don't know how, but I am ready to do it.
Now we have about 5 more minutes together before we're going to take some questions from the audience for 15 minutes. Okay. In the last 5 minutes that we have together, taking on these themes that you've introduced in the last half an hour or so around personal responsibility, leadership, building a new future, self-autonomy and self-development around self-improvement around these areas. It's worth sharing, and we've discussed this in the past, the idea of what can we provide to our community to actually do tachlis, to really tachlis, take an action that is accessible, that isn't, I need to be some sort of distant economist to figure this out.
Yes.
So the Jewish Climate Network, that's what we're here to do. We're here to provide opportunities and tools that allow people to enter this conversation wherever they feel comfortable. I don't know if Edwin, if you'd be able to put on the Zoom these 2 QR codes that I was showing you before, but and I'd invite you to comment on these. But we built. So we built 2 opportunities for the community to take action. And I feel like it's a natural, organic continuation of what's happening tonight. So if you're on Zoom, you have an opportunity, whip out your phone, at least grab the hyperlinks. You can take one of here and one of here. And I'll just share for a second about this, and then you can talk about the global initiative as well.
This is a dinosaur.
It's a dinosaur, yeah. It's just for fun, just for fun. Oh, yes, nice. You can create QR codes with all kinds of funny things. So this one on the right is called Engage with Your Federal Candidate. So a lot of you will know there's a federal election coming up. Nice. You're a federal candidate, but we have a federal election coming up in a couple of months. It hasn't been announced yet. It'll probably be in May.
May?
Yeah, in May.
Okay, choose well.
Yeah, choose well. And we built this platform, it was just launched this week, to enable the Jewish community to communicate with all of the candidates across Australia, MPs and candidates that are coming up from all of the political parties. So it doesn't matter where you are, what spectrum you're on, who you like to vote for, who you don't like to vote for.
That's good.
It creates a letter for you to write. So if you don't know exactly what to write from scratch, the letter is there already in different formats, and you just put your address in, you put your name in, and you just click send, and it goes to all those candidates. Or if you like to jump on the phone and you don't like sending email all day, there's a different tool.
You are a candidate.
I'm not a candidate.
Why not?
Maybe one day. I'm doing this work. You can click call. You click the make the call button, and your phone will automatically ring, and you'll be connected through to the candidate that's in your area, and you can leave a message with the staff. So you don't have to find their number. You don't have to find their email address. Super easy. So that was the one on the right.
Okay.
Love to hear the feedback. And the one on the left was what we were talking about, how solar, batteries, electric appliances in our homes are now really a lot more cheap and accessible. And this one is a platform, a partnership the Jewish Climate Network created with a group called Metro Community Power Hub. You go on there, you say, I'm interested in solar. It sends you off to a trusted supplier. You can have a 30-minute free consultation, and it gets you on the journey of getting solar panels. You can do it for your business or your home.
Coach you how to do that.
Coach you how to do it, show you the payback. Really, really easy stuff. You'll get onto the website like this. You'll click, I found out about this from the Jewish Climate Network. You get a quote, and you're on your way. And the important thing is, this is how you start. You don't have to know the end, but this is how you can start. So that's the left for those who like to do this kind of the home business improvement stuff. And the right is political engagement.
Very good.
We'd love to get feedback from you all.
Very concrete.
It's concrete, it's simple.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the beginning. How do you feel about that?
I take over from your initiative, and then I think that is some of the examples why it's so relevant for us to have a global organization like the World Union, but a local organization like the UPJ and our communities, because I believe that we need to improve our local conversation, dialogue.
Global, local.
Yes, this is the global conversation is climate change, and then the World Union, we like the global organization of the progressive communities, we will take over this another initiative in different regions, and to start to connect a global network about Jewish initiative to fight against the climate change. Not to create something in some place in the top. I don't believe not in umbrellas, in top organization, no. I believe to build from the ground. Because the global conversation is climate change, but the change is in local. You can't change the world in the global dimension. You can't change the world in the local. And then I take over from this initiative, we will start to connect your initiative with others, to start to build a global community of local initiative to give a Jewish answer to climate change. It's something that is very concrete, very practical, and allow to the people not to go to the philosophical approach. It came to something that is the reality that we need to change. I am open if you have some questions. My problem is if you have a question, my answers are very long. This is the problem.
Well, Phyllis is going to be
But
moderating.
I will try to do it.
She'll give you
short.
the chop if you need it.
We'd like to open it up for questions, and I need to remind you that a question is a sentence with a question mark at the
Oh
end,
my God.
not a statement. So does anyone have any questions?
No,
No.
it's done.
Go home.
We finished.
Is there a way for people?
Is there a way for people on Zoom to do that?
Do questions?
Is there a chat section at the side?
I asked from applause for Erwin, that El Salvador, and he's taking care about the technical performance of the night. Thank you, Erwin.
Thank you.
And I have also my
Helen,
friend
you
from
have a
Argentina.
question.
And you might need to also say it again so that they can hear. Yeah.
Make.
Now, Sergio, you've only been in Australia for a little over a week, but you have tonight given us a huge feel for what you believe in relation to climate change and the environment. Just in this short time you've been in Australia, what sense do you have about the way Australians view the huge issues that you have talked about tonight?
I said from the beginning that I'm very impressed about the Australian community, and I realized that when you are in a community, you only criticize the bad things, and you can't appreciate the good ones, because this is your community, and we are Jewish people. But I realized that I find here a very Zionist, open community that have a lot of difference, but have some common ground. For me, Israel in this community is a common ground from this community. Now we are in the UIA appeal, and we know that different people in any possibility support. It says the first community in diaspora that I met, also in the liberal network, that raise money. Not only ask, raise and support and give. And I think that it's for me, it's a very good example. It's like a role model for other communities. And I think that is a very good thing. Only I'm saying now, maybe we can do the same that we are doing with Israel, with climate change, a different action, to take commitment about the local community. I think that you have a huge potential. Also because we are changing the way that we have the global conversation in the Jewish world, that also need a revolution for an evolution. Can be that we are in the periphery, isolated, and we are only the audience of the dialogue between Babel and Jerusalem, the US community and Israel, and we are the rest of the world. No, we are not the rest of the world. We are not the world, but we are not the rest. And you have a lot to add to the conversation. The conversation in the Jewish people must be a round table. And if we are saying that we are a family, can be that the big brother is our dad. No, we have only one dad in heaven. Here we are all brothers. You are the small one, the big one, no matter. If we are a family, we take care each one. No? And this is, Ukraine is a case. This is something that no matter where you are, we feel that we need to do something with that. And also this night and these days, the people is really committed with money and support to help our brothers and sisters there. But you are doing that. And I think that you need to stress the good thing that you have to improve the not so good things that you have, but to really think that you are making a contribution to the Jewish world. Not only for Australia or not only for Israel, for every one of us. Israel is in the center, but you are changing life here in Australia with the example that you are giving us, like the Jewish people.
Hi, is it on?
It's on.
Hi, thank you for your talk this evening and welcome to Australia. It has occurred to me that economically we have two opportunities to encourage or discourage consumption, and that's with an incentive or a disincentive. But when you match that against the political implementation of a very short political cycle, how do you reconcile the two to make us able to achieve a desirable outcome?
On climate issues, you mentioned.
Yeah. I believe in this actual model that we have in the market, that we can change the economy tomorrow. This is the economy that we have. But how we can change it is the power of the consumer. If you check the footprint of emission of the thing that you are consuming, you have power there. If we start to talk, every one of us, we have power. If we can check every business, if we are supporting small producers that they are really friendly with the environment, if we are really supporting business that they are really taking care about the employees, about the environment, and about this thing, maybe in the beginning you say, I don't make nothing, but every time that you are coming into a supermarket, maybe you need to think what you are buying. Because the budget that you have is one, no? But the producers of the things that you are buying, you need to check if they include in the price the externality of the impact in the environment. If they do that, you give a price and you buy. If they don't do that, you don't buy. You don't know to make a demonstration in the street. You can make a demonstration when you buy. This is very small, very, very like a testimony, but it's a power. Why? Because the economical incentive. If you are producing something and you are really having a damage to the environment and the people don't buy your stuff, you will change. I can tell you from my experience in Argentina, the President Macri, bless you, that thing that is correct is through SMS. President Macri is an engineer. When we start to work about environment, I think, what's happened with this guy? She changed? She became a green one? No. he wants that Argentina can sell the products in the European Union, can sell the products in the new standards of the new market of OECD. And we know that the environmental standards of your products will be a border. If you don't fulfill the standard, you can buy it. And then it's not that he was committed to the environment, he was committed to the economy. And he said, Sergio, go there, learn how we need to align our standards and proceedings to be in the market. And this is for me very concrete. If I were trying to convince an engineer that you need to keep the earth, you can't profane the nature, I have no possibilities to succeed. When I talk with President Macri that he's doing business, good business, if he fulfill the environment parameters, he say, okay, because, you know, the best business for us is to be sustainable because it's the best business for our kids. And this is a business to ensure to them something good in the future.
As a powerful person in a very powerful organization, if you had a chance to speak to the leadership, political leadership in our country, Australia, about what you think we should be doing here in Australia as far as climate change is concerned, and if not, will you take it up?
I will sign the Paris Agreement and work to have mitigation and adaptation plans to keep your people and to keep your nature. You know that Australia don't sign it. You have a problem here. For me, with all the respect for Australia, no? You have a problem. It's not a solution, but it's a way. And you need to be on track. And you are not. Sorry, Mark.
Hi, Rabbi. We're talking about really deep existential issues. They're very scary. So how do we manage the tension with our students and our young people and our old young people of maintaining tikva, maintaining hope, and not losing people to inaction through climate grief?
Sure. My answer is what you are doing, that is teaching our generations our Jewish values. Because we never, like Jewish people, we never was afraid about the future, the opposite. We really keep going with hope. Not because it's easy, nothing is easy, but we are resilient people and we are a civilization that really offer to the humankind ethical and humanistic way to fix problems. Maybe this is a new agenda, but this is not a new challenge. I can tell you, I can make it not so long, I will be short. But when we change from sacrificing kids or animals to pray, we make an evolution. No? And when we read the Torah and say, yes, because we mean Mincha, and Shacharit, Arbit, and Seir Lasaset, all these things, and if you read the Torah about what we are doing, it's like a huge barbecue there. A crazy thing. And then how you can really believe that this is something that we can offer? Crazy. But in this time was something that everyone in the neighbor do that this thing. When we read the Akedat Yitzhak, that is a crazy story. Crazy story. It's scary or no? What this is not scary and climate change is scary? Really scary. A God that asked me to bring my kid and to sacrifice. What we are talking about? But if your neighbor are doing exactly the same, they are really sacrificing the kids in biblical times, you are doing a change and evolution. That means if you track record the Jewish history and our tradition, it's all the time the same. You are in the middle of the problem and you offer a solution. You are in the middle of the problem because you have all the people around you sacrificing animals and all the thing, and you say, you know what, we want to change. Your neighbor sacrifices his kids, we don't sacrifice our. This is for me the same. It's like we have the terrible, terrible experience, and this community know that, of the Shoah. And I can really ask you, how a people, a tradition, can believe that there's a future after that? And we have the creation of the state of Israel after that, not before. And I know that is a problem, because here the question about if we have the state of Israel before the Shoah, blah, 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 if. But we have it after. Now we need to keep it. And it's a mistake for all of us to make the confusion between the state of Israel and the government of Israel. You don't like the government of Israel? I don't like the government of Israel. Also, I don't like the government of Israel now that we are in the government. The government of Israel is not a problem, Netanyahu. It's what you are doing. Now we are part of the coalition, and we don't change a meter the direction of a government in Israel that is right. On the left, right? It's not in the center. It's in the right. Because one guy, a lucky one, that have only 9 members of the Knesset, is the Prime Minister of Israel. Because the system is tricky. You understood what I am talking, no? All the people in Israel vote. They vote the right. Because the right split, because this crazy one of Netanyahu, they say, you know what? I will go with them. What? You, Bennett, are going with Lapid? Yes. Why? Because you have a program about climate change. No, because you have an economical revolution. No, I need only to drop out this guy. And we build a coalition only because that. This is the situation of the government of Israel. And we are in the government. Why we are in government? I know that I'm assuming you want, some of the audience won't kill me after that, but no problem with that. We are there because we get the money of the budget, we have the positions, and we get all the privilege of the politics. But we are not changing the policy of the state. Because the government, every time, is a problem. Because government is politicians. And politicians and governments have a dilemma. How you can really fulfill what you promise. The other hand is the state of Israel. The state of Israel for us is holy, the state of Israel. And it's something that we are building all the time. It's not the Israel that we have today. It's the ambition of Israel that we need to deliver to become alike among the nations. Now we are not alike among the nations because we have the light among the nations is startups. But the dark among the nations is that we are living in Israel in the Middle Age with the extortion of the fundamentalism of the orthodoxy, not the orthodoxy. We need to take care about that. We are not against the orthodoxy. The orthodoxy is a way that we need to support in the diversity of the Jewish life. The limit is the fundamentalism of some groups of the Orthodox that use the politics to impose the other that they can live in the way that they want. This is the real problem. This is extortion, and this is extortion that came not from theology and from God, it came from politics, because they have the votes to allow the government to be there. Now, crazy. Now they are not in the government, but we don't change. Pluralism, recognition, the place of the women in Israel, and what we are fighting years and years, we don't succeed to change today. And then I can say, I am ready to criticize the government of Israel all my life, but I will stand by the state of Israel all my life, in any place, in any condition.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Sorry.
One last question.
No, because it's long answers. It's the problem. The question always, I can answer.
Hi, Sergio, over here.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks.
Hi, good to see
nice
you
to
again.
see you again,
Thank
exactly.
you so much for coming.
No
so
problems.
Late, and you're here.
So you mentioned before about economic interest of big stakeholders, whether it's China, the United States, and what it means for these countries to actually have an economic and national interest in attempting to combat climate. And as a rabbi, and also like, I don't know, as a youth educator in Netzer, it made me think of a rabbinic story, the book of Job, where Job, a prosperous religious man, is tested by God and Satan in a way that he would not be religious, he would not be prosperous if he was tested, and they took away God did awful things to him until he couldn't deal with the consequences of what God had done to him. But yet he still believed, the idea of tikva, the hope, the idea that God would help him despite all the bad that happened to him, only for God to prove to Satan that he would still believe after I do all these bad things to him.
Yeah.
So when you look at these massive countries who have no incentive other than an economic to channel any sort of climate action, what kind of repercussions, consequences can we as Australia, a progressive community that believe that climate change is the way for my community, the youth community, to succeed in the future? How do we provide some sort of consequential, tangible process for these people to actually enact climate change? Enact climate action, sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I really don't care about the beliefs. I check the actions. And I really think that you are right, because you can choose which God of the Bible, of the Torah, you want to believe in. We have several. We believe in one God, but we have different models, And you can choose. I don't like the God of Job, because I think that is really complicated. Also, I don't like the challenge of God with Abraham. I think that was really hard. You need to pass the examination, but I am asking for something more friendly. In any case, the Jewish tradition never check what you believe. It's asking what you are acting, your action. I am checking your action. And then in this conversation is which kind of action we can offer. This is the change of offering something and not sacrificing. What is your offer? This is Avodah Shebalev. This is what we want to offer. This is our contribution in a good, positive, proactive way. And here we have two examples of two concrete things that you can do. And then you can have a relationship with another kind of God. It's a God that is in your hands, that you invite God to be your partner. That is not the same that you are a believer of a God, that we make the supervision if you are doing the right thing. And you will receive a prize because you are doing the right thing, or you will receive a curse if you are not doing what the rabbi said. Take care.
Thank you. Amazing, amazing. Helen, would you like to?
I vote for Ellen.
Too late, she's retired.
It's not an it's retired.
From all that.
Okay, no problem. I know your track record, and then I.
Oh dear. Wow, that's been amazing. Thank you all for being here, and I would like to recognize our two rabbis, Jonathan Karen Black, and where's Gary?
Gary's there.
And Rabbi Gary Roebuck. It's lovely to have you all with us, and to have our Zoom audience here as well. So tonight, of course, we have been addressed on the subject of climate by two incredible people. One person doing more of the asking and another person doing more of the answering at length.
But he's
But very
answering
well.
more than me.
I know. But one...
What he's doing is the answer.
Okay, I'm doing the talking here.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
One, an Argentinian who trained as a chemist, became a member of parliament and a minister for the environment, wrote 7 books and became a rabbi, leading the progressive movement in Argentina, and who is now the president of the World Union for Progressive Judaism, with a remarkably progressive agenda for our movement. And I think that's an important thing to mention. The other is a very young man, a law graduate, a graduate of Yavna College, who became a corporate lawyer, specializing in insolvency litigation, and then completely changed direction to become a climate guru and a leading light on the environment in the Melbourne Jewish community. In a sense, 2 very unlikely characters to address anyone, let alone a group of progressive Jews, on the subject of fundraising. But we haven't quite gotten to that subject, have we? And yet this has been the most interesting evening, and your presentation has been the most fascinating. The important issues I discussed with Joel last week, and that I hope you feel you have been addressed tonight, were in relation to 2 topics. What is actually happening with our climate, and who is either responsible or trying to fix whatever needs fixing? One thing Joel said to me is that he is convinced that the Jewish community punches above its weight on the issue of climate, and that this was the impetus for him to establish the Jewish Climate Network. Well, you became the CEO. You became the CEO. I think tonight's discussion was very sensible, full of common sense, informative, and it gave us a very good understanding of climate and environmental issues, and some wonderful practical ideas about how we and our governments can go about finding remedies to limit the damage that is probably already been done and may occur, and stop the damage that may occur in the future. Rabbi Roebuck said today of you, your message so neatly aligns with the times. And I think that is so true, and I think Rabbi Roebuck hit the nail on the head with that comment. We would like to thank you most sincerely for your presentation, which was wonderful. We would like to thank Joel for being here to know the questions to ask you, and he did, and for telling us about some of the work of the Jewish Climate Network. I would like to thank King David School for having us here tonight, Mark Light for his warm words of welcome, Phyllis Dory for the way she conducted the question time and the introduction of our speakers, Jocelyn Roebuck, without whom none of this would ever happen, Philip Bliss, who is a co-chair of the appeal, along with Brian Samuel. And apparently my name is there too, but I don't know that I'm doing anything very much, but all that said. Wait for it, wait. So now we change direction to bring this evening to an end. I would like to bring you a video of Rabbi Duchovny, the leader of the progressive movement in Ukraine, to tell us what is being inflicted on Jews and other Ukrainians alike by the Russian invaders. Some of you will have already seen this video, but I think we all need to be reminded of the evil that is being perpetrated and be offered the opportunity to contribute to the enormous assistance being provided to the Jews of Ukraine by the World Union for Progressive Judaism, along with the Jewish Agency in Israel, the Department of Ergun, which is headed up by Gusti Yeshua Braverman, many of you would know her, and the Jewish National Fund, who are providing accommodation to those who have fled Ukraine to Israel. And of course, the many other organizations that are offering support to Ukraine. Could we please have the video? Thank you.
Dear friends and colleagues, temples and synagogues, members of the World Union for Progressive Judaism all over the world. I'm talking to you from the basement of the 5-story building which was built during the Stalin's regime. This is only a place where we can hide from airstrikes, from bombardments. Kyiv is on lockdown, but today is the last day of winter and spring is coming. Spring usually brings hope for bright future. And with your help and support, which you're giving via emergency call of the World Union for Progressive Judaism, this is so important for Ukrainians and for Jews of Ukraine who are still here in Ukraine like I am, to be safe and to promote the values of Judaism and values of humanity. First of all, I would like to thank all of you who already donated via this emergency call of the World Union for Progressive Judaism. Secondly, I would like to say that it's so important for my congregants, not only from the Hatikva congregation in Kyiv, but also from other 47 formally registered Reform liberal progressive congregations of Ukraine, to feel your shoulders, your hearts, and your souls. It's a difficult time. I'm very emotional, but I know that you're with us, and we know that always good is overtaking evil, and this is what will happen. It will happen because we are one big Jewish family, and you are supporting not only Jews of Ukraine, you are supporting the values of Judaism, you are supporting the values of humanity, and you are helping us to garden young democracy and sovereignty of Ukraine. Thank you so much to all of you. Love from the basement in Kyiv. Rabbi Alexander Duchovny.
As you can see, Rabbi Duchovny is trying to protect progressive Jewish values in Ukraine. He has said this is being done as the children of God fighting for our life and democracy. He has also employed us to donate generously to the World Union Crisis Fund through the Progressive Appeal here in Australia. And so I implore you too to donate as generously as you can to bring assistance to our brothers and sisters, both at border checkpoints around Ukraine and to support the many thousands who are fleeing to the safe haven of Israel. It is estimated now that some 2 million Ukrainians fled their homeland ahead of the advancing Russian army, and 1 million children, many of whom are not with parents. Also today, we heard that Russia bombed a maternity and children's hospital in Ukraine. We also know that Russians are shooting civilians and planting landmines along the so-called safe exit routes, many of which disgracefully don't lead to freedom, but to Russia and Belarus. I'm very proud that the progressive community in Australia has joined as one for this cause. Arts Australia, the Union for Progressive Judaism Victoria have all joined together in support of this Ukraine Crisis Fund. Finally, and before we hand out the pledge forms, I would like to bring you some quotes from Rabbi Gary Roebuck, who recently gave special recognition to the Jewish President Zelensky of Ukraine, when he commented that he thought the many photos taken of him made him more relatable, more commanding, and more presidential. He said, President Zelensky's defiant words have awakened the soul of Europe, lifted the spirits, bolstered the courage and quelled the concerns of his people, while at the same time rallying international support for his besieged country and defending democracy. I invite you to make a financial pledge to the support being given by our community to this besieged country defending its democracy. And now I'd like to ask that the pledge forms be handed out. And for those people watching on Zoom, a QR code will appear on your screen. You can click onto it and it should take you to the UPJ appeal page for the Ukraine. Clicking on it, I mean, you need to use your phone to click on it. Just a little bit of technology that I left out. So Rabbi Bergman, thank you very much. Joel, thank you very much. Tonight has been an amazing night, and I think we have all learnt a great deal. Thank you.